Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today I'm a little bit under the weather, so only have the mental capacity to play a red aggro deck, but at least I'm gonna spice things up with 3 copies of Ojer Axonil, the Deepest Might, a 4-mana 4/4 god with Trample, saying if a red source we control would deal an amount of non-combat damage less than Ojer's power to an opponent, we get to deal damage equal to Ojer's power instead. Don't have any pump spells, so it's always going to be 4 damage in this deck, but that can definitely add up since we have multiple burn spells that can benefit from it, as well as a lot of creatures that will often deal 1 damage, which can now be upgraded to 4 damage with Ojer on the battlefield. And then when our god dies, it transforms into the Temple of Power, a land that can maybe transform back into the god if we manage to deal 4 or more non-combat damage this turn. And then taking a look at some of the creatures that synergize with Ojer, at 1 mana we've got the full set of Hired Claw, which is a staple in any red deck, a 1/2 saying whenever we attack with 1 or more lizards it deals 1 damage to target opponent, so that can turn into 4 damage, and then we can also pump it up for 2 mana, putting a +1 counter on it if our opponent lost life to our effects this turn. Then we also have the full set of Fanatical Firebrand, 1/1 with haste, can also tap and sacrifice to deal 1 damage to any target, so that can also benefit from our god, and can also be a way to damage our own Screaming Nemesis, which is another great card in any red deck. 3/3 with haste, can punish the opponent for damaging it, as we can also prevent them from gaining life for the rest of the game, so sometimes we want to just use the Firebrand on our own Nemesis to get that effect going, which can be great against any life gain strategies. Then at 2 mana we also have the full set of Razorkin Needlehead, a 2/2, has first strike in our turn, and then whenever an opponent draws a card it deals 1 damage to them, so that can also benefit from Ojer Axonil, now dealing 4 damage instead. And then the Scalding Vipers, why we're splashing a bit of blue. This has been picking up in popularity in these red decks lately. Can use the adventure to return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and then we can still cast a creature afterwards, or we can immediately cast the 2/1, saying whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value 3 or less, it deals 1 damage to that player, so that can also once again benefit from Ojer Axonil, now dealing 4 damage instead. Then we've got some burn spells as well. Burst Lightning, dealing 2 damage for 1 mana or 4 damage if we kick it. So with Ojer, this can always deal 4 damage whether or not we kick it. Same with Lightning Strike, which normally deals 3 damage for 2 mana. And then besides our Screaming Nemesis, at 3 mana we can also maybe warp a Nova Hellkite, dealing 1 damage to an opposing creature when it enters, and then immediately flying over for 4 damage, and then later we can also cast it for 5, so that gives us an extra mana sink, alongside maybe activating a Soulstone Sanctuary, turning it into a 3/3 land with Vigilance still. And then we also have Rockface Village to maybe give a Hired Claw haste later in the game, while giving it 1 extra power as well. Also have a 1-of Witchstalker Frenzy, can occasionally cast it on the cheap if we're attacking with multiple creatures, dealing 5 damage to a creature. And then we've got some blue-red dual lands to help with the Scalding Viper, and then plenty of mountains. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. We have, well, looks like keepable hands. There's the risk of flooding with 4 lands. But Firebrand's also good with the Nemesis, can deal 1 damage to it, prevent the opponent from gaining life. So we'll get in for 1. And see what we're up against. Blue-red. Could be the mirror match. Yeah, still gonna attack here. Eidetic Memory, so more likely to be the VV deck or just blue-red prowess. Well, at least the coast is clear for Screaming Nemesis. Don't expect any life gains, so don't need to prioritize damaging the Nemesis. Opponent's gonna braid. So 3 damage on the way out. Okay. Can use Frenzy to take care of a creature. A Lightning Strike might want to go face. It's going to be a Cauldron first. Alright, Burst Lightning we can kick. So we almost have enough. We have 7 points of burn in hand. So not in a hurry to take out their creatures. Although maybe now that they've drawn 3 cards and get 3 counters from Eidetic Memory, it's worth it to use the Frenzy. Yeah, fine. So I'm gonna hang on to the Burst Lightning to play it kicked, even though we could take out the Scholar. Did not want to draw more lanes. So we can put our opponent to 1 over the course of the next 2 turns. So then it's just a matter of finding 1 more damage somewhere. Possible they have Spell Pierce to interact. Engineer's fine. Can maybe make a Dragon token at some point. It's gonna go for haste. Well, Firebrand can also block and then damage the opponents. Could wait to set that up for next turn to soak up more damage. If I block Mako, then they might activate Cauldron to give it a counter. I think we can wait, just take it for now. See if they have a Spell Pierce. So far so good. And then now the Hellkites could potentially force them to chump. Could also warp it as opposed to casting it. If I deal 1 to the Mako, they're gonna put a counter on it. They could still have a bounce spell as well, which is a reason to warp as opposed to just casting it. So their opponent saves the Mako. Could use Firebrand to still finish it off. I don't think that's necessary. In case I draw another Firebrand, it's good to have the 1 damage to go face. Now the Hellkite also puts the opponent under pressure. So they need a flyer back. So yeah, I could have just taken out the Engineer to start out, but then Cauldron could have still given the Mako the ability to make a dragon. So I think this is all fine. We just need to buy ourselves time and draw another burn spell. Now our opponent's going to be worried about the Hellkite, so they can't make as many attacks as they would otherwise. The upside of casting Hellkite last turn is that we maybe could have saved ourselves the mana to cast it on the following turn. Reason to warp is if our opponent presented another 1 toughness creature, we get the extra damage. Alright, let's see if we can top deck for the win. We can. And I still have the mana to play Hellkite anyways. I guess I should cast this first if we are somehow worried about Spell Pierce. But yeah, now with the 1 damage from Hellkite, we can at least trade for the Dragon token if they put a counter on it with Cauldron, whereas otherwise a 4-5 would have gotten eaten. So that's another reason to warp first. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with Keeper. Got our Firebrand to maybe damage the Nemesis if we need our opponent to not gain life. Double Needlehead. Let's see what we're up against. Turn 1 Swamp. And a Trajectory. Alright, so my creatures are unlikely to survive. Could see Deep Cavern Bats now. We don't. So if our opponent keeps up 2 mana, I'm actually in favor of going Hard Claw plus another Needlehead in case they have removal for Nemesis. I would rather get a clean attack in. So for now we can start by attacking for 2. And a Bitter Triumph discards a Forsaken Miner. So we've got a pretty nice hand left over. Another Trajectory, get back Miner this time. But looks like we'll get to attack with a Nemesis at least. And another Trajectory, alright, so our opponent is down to 2 cards. Now Firebrand would be excellent if we can go Nemesis plus Firebrand. The Annex can eventually gain them life. And a Scalding Viper. So I think I actually like damaging the Nemesis with Firebrand now. And then I can still use the Viper, either bouncing something or playing the creature half. Could also save this to bounce the Demon token, to be honest. And then for now just play another Nemesis, hit for 6. That probably makes more sense. Even though it would be nice to guarantee the no life gain clause. But with double Nemesis, one of them should survive. If they make the Demon token, they can't even realistically block the Nemesis anyway, because it would take 6. But yeah, we should have all angles covered now. Opponent's back to 8, I attack, they can block or else they die. And then I can still do some damage. So we can bounce the Demon token. And then just main phase the Firebrand here in case they have instant speed removal. Could have also blocked the Miner and then still damaged the Nemesis, but that's a little riskier. So now they need another Demon to not die to their own Annex. They do. But that's still not going to save them from Nemesis attacking. So can play Viper, bounce the Bloodletter, and attack onto the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Good mix of cards to synergize with Ojer. Everything can deal non-combat damage. Facing maybe a Colorless Ugin ramp deck, who knows? I'll start with a Hard Claw. Especially if we draw another copy. It is blue-white artifacts, perhaps. For now, play a Razorkin. Yeah, this could be an awesome turn 4. Play Ojer, deal 8 damage with Firebrands, 4 with Needlehead, 4 more with a Hard Claw. Alright, opponent's got a makeshift binding. So now I'm potentially in favor of activating Hard Claw. Although Firebrands are pretty good with Ojer. Could have also considered activating Village, but I guess it's better to just pump Hard Claw. Alright, fine, we'll try this. Might be safer in case they have a way to exile multiple cards at once. It's gonna be a Bricks instead. And another Claw. So I could try Ojer. Small chance it gets countered. More likely that they just have some removal spell like the Saw Blade. But then they cannot target Ojer at least. We get at least 4 damage from the Hard Claw trigger. So that's pretty sweet. If Hard Claw survives next turn with another one, that could be 8 damage. So it's a close call. Mostly concerned about a potential Star Cage. Dealing with all the small stuff. So I'll try this. Alright, that resolves. So let's go to attackers. I think we keep Firebrand back. Opponent sacking Candy Trail. So I could deal 4 now. I guess that's fine. Day of Judgment, fair enough. At least Ojer transforms. So we need to deal 4 or more non-combat damage before we can flip it back. For now, go Hard Claw, give it haste. Can pump and still get in with Firebrand. Alright, so we have our opponent at a virtual 3 life, but they keep gaining more life with Candy Trails. They could also use Demolition Field on the Temple of Power. And more life gain. And Authority. Okay. Well, now we have 6 points of burn, so 7 with a Firebrand. So let's go ahead and attack. No need to activate Rockface Village. Opponent's gonna sack Candy Trail. In response, we've got 7 points of burn, which also could get Ojer back. Would that be a more fun play? Because this trigger would deal 4 damage. Opponent goes to 6, and then they die. Yeah, I guess that's the fun play. Although, never mind, we can only use this as a sorcery. Alright, fine. Yeah, if we could activate this at instant speed, we still had lethal here. Or I guess we don't, because of Authority. I believe that still triggers. Let me double check. So this says when a creature enters. Does this just transform? Yeah, I guess transforming doesn't count as entering the battlefield, so then we do not trigger Authority. So then with the trigger dealing 4 and this dealing 2, we would have had just enough. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a hand that needs a couple of lands. But then could be pretty sweet if we get there. I would definitely trade 1 Ojer for a mountain. But if this is a mulligan to 6 minus 1 Ojer, it would be a keep. Well, let's see what we're up against. Starting town. So just need 2 lands in a row. And there's one. Start with probably Nemesis. So Swamp starting town, maybe it's just black-white. Although then we would have expected them to play something. Could be, I guess, the Sultai Reanimator deck. Could see Bitter Triumph take something out. I think I still want to get the Nemesis down. Opponent is holding priority. So I guess I don't attack with Firebrand. Yep. That way I can ensure that they don't gain life for the rest of the game, which could matter. If they're on Arden. And Preacher, so it might be more of a blue-black mid-range deck after all. Alright, well, Hellkite's just 4 damage to the face here. Got another one coming up. Can also take care of a life-linking token from Preacher. But now they might have removal for the Hellkite. Enduring Curiosity flashed in to draw. Another Firebrand. Yeah, still gonna go for Hellkites. Alright, so... and now what? A land for Ojer would be good. Viper's gonna stay put, because with Ojer that could deal 4 damage. But we can expect more removal now, so it's gonna be hard to keep anything in play. Alright, let's start here. Alright, they had a counterspell sadly, still good for 1 damage. So, we're basically on a 2-turn clock here. Opponent's drawing more cards than they can deal with. They probably have removal for Hellkite, so that's no longer going to present lethal. And Needlehead's interesting too. If I go Razorkin, Firebrand, I have 3 blockers. Firebrand can chump, deal 1 damage. That could technically keep me alive until they animate the Sanctuary. Alright, let's just play Ojer and see what happens. They probably just have another counterspell. Ojer resolves, so please just put a spell on the stack. Opponent animate Sanctuary. Give them the good game. And the opponent's not going to cast anything here. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Hand is a little land heavy, but at least we can cast a Hellkite for 5 eventually. So we'll try it. Can also kick a Burst Lightning at 5. So we do have some mana sinks. And yeah, Authority is pretty mean against us. Makes our Hellkite useless if we warp it. So it does not appear to be the mono-white life gain deck. Might be blue-white artifacts missing land drops. So I might want to wait on Screaming Nemesis until I can actually damage it with a Burst Lightning. Although, yeah, I guess I get punished by Get Lost if I play it now. Alright, I'll wait, even though entering tapped of course means no haste damage. Opponent found their land. So in response to that trigger, I could Burst Lightning, could get punished by Get Lost. So I'll let them gain the 1, see what the response is. And then now I can Burst Lightning. But yeah, the Hellkite's still looking pretty weak. Can still cast it, and then... And next turn we could maybe attack. United Battlefront could find their blue spells that they're unable to cast. It's gonna be Bricks not gaining any life, and then the Bay next turn can find a Synthesizer. Another tapped Hellkite's awkward. But yeah, I guess we'll still go for it. Just gotta hope that our flyers can cross the finish line before they assemble an army of constructs. And there's a Synthesizer, as we suspected. Scry 2 can find blue mana. Keeps both on top. And another Snare. So we've got 4 damage coming in, 8 points of burn in hand. And a Scalding Viper. So if we had this sooner, I could have maybe bounced the Authority to get in with a hasty Hellkite. Bouncing a Snare to get Hellkite back doesn't seem all that useful. So I think we just bounced the token. Could also see an argument for just going for Burst Lightning Kicks instead of wasting my mana on playing the Viper, but we might get some damage out of it. So likely gonna see another Synthesizer or Repurposing Bay. And then they might go for another Snare on Hellkite, although I guess they don't have any 2-mana artifacts to sacrifice. Their opponent forced to pass it back. Draw Lightning Strike. So, do I just have a lethal? Hellkite definitely wants to attack. Possible they have Saw Blade. But, still gonna go for it here. So now we have Kick Burst Lightning plus Lightning Strike is lethal. And I don't see why I shouldn't go for it now. Alright, so turn 1 Authority was effective, but wasn't good enough by itself. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with what looks like a keepable hand. Could use a bit more top end, but at least a Viper gives us a bit more flexibility. Facing potentially the mirror match. Opponents cast a Fire Magic. Glad they didn't wait, because they could have gotten an extra Viper for free. So, probably just a 4-color control deck. Could also be blue-red VV of some variety. But yeah, looks like 4-color control. And yeah, they could have Lightning Helix up here, which would be unfortunate. Get lost. Alright, at least we get some map tokens. And then we can wait on Lightning Strike. Don't have much going on in hand, so it's gonna be an uphill battle. Can expect some counter spells as well. Opponent taps out for stock up. And our opponent's gonna have some life gain effects to help them stabilize. So we may need the services of a Screaming Nemesis. Hellkites, I think I'd still explore here while I get the chance. And then next turn we could cast it once again, although the opponent's probably going to keep up some interaction this time. So I could animate Sanctuary. I forget exactly the defeat, if it can target lands or if it's just target creature. Let me look it up real quick. That's the Mardu colored removal spell. Exile target non-land permanent, so if I animate Sanctuary, it would technically be safe, but they could also have a Lightning Helix instead. So, tricky spot. Could just play Needlehead and pass. Tempted to explore, but that's likely gonna bait out removal. And yeah, there's a defeat. So I guess I could Lightning Strike. That way we don't lose 3 life. Because the spell would fizzle. So it's kind of like we cast a Lightning Strike, but we also saved ourselves 3 damage. Alright, so similar position. Could still try the Sanctuary play. And hope they have defeat and not Lightning Helix. Yeah, let's try it. Could attack first, second main, go exploring, just to kind of hedge my bets a little bit. Alright, that worked, so gotta imagine their removal is defeat instead of a Lightning Helix. Hard Claw, not the worst with a Rockface Village. Could see a board wipe now. 6 mana. At 7 they have Jeskai Revelation, but it's gonna be Day of Judgment, keep up 2 mana. Presumably for a counter spell to counter the Hellkite. Let's see what happens if we play Hardclaw. That works. Alright, so at this point I could pump, and then a single Lightning Strike is lethal. Which plays better around a counterspell, although I imagine they have another defeat here, which they're probably going to main phase, or a Jeskai Revelation to gain 4. Defeats, opponent back up to 5. So yeah, didn't seem like they were necessarily holding a counterspell last turn, so going for double Lightning Strike could do it. Could also try the Hellkite. Yeah, what's the concern here? If I go for double Lightning Strike, they could either have Lightning Helix to gain 3 or a No More Lies to counter. Last turn they did shock themselves to Day of Judgment to keep up 2 mana. I played the Hardclaw, they didn't have a response, so they could still have a No More Lies, I guess, and they just didn't want to counter. Because we could pay for it. Yeah, I guess we'll get Hellkite countered here. That's fine. As long as they don't gain life, we still have lethal. Firebrand. I can play and then still have double strike up. Question is if I even bother attacking, because once I turn it sideways, I can no longer sacrifice it in response to another defeat, for instance. So could be convinced to just pass and hope they tap out for Jeskai Revelation. Alright, perfect. And there we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Got some removal into double Nemesis. Facing blue-white, so it could be control. So not an easy matchup for the Nemesis to necessarily connect. Looks like they might be on artifacts. Still gonna cast a Viper, but yeah, the Steam Clean can be useful if we need a bounce effect. Just think we need the pressure here. Bricks will already gain them some life. And they likely have something that can exile the Nemesis or keep it tamped down. But next turn I can play Nemesis and Burst Lightning to prevent him from gaining life. And there's a Perilous Snare. Okay, and I think we main phase everything just to be safe. So no more life gain, opponent's at 8. Next turn I can animate Sanctuary at the very least. And there's a Braided Net, a good way to keep the Nemesis locked down. And Ojer is nice too. So could animate Sanctuary, hit for 5, assuming they tap the Nemesis. Or I can play Ojer, and then our opponent's locked out of casting any cheap spells, because they would take 4 of Scalding Viper. Yeah, that's cool too. So I guess worst case scenario, they have the 4 mana card that can put multiple non-creatures into play. Cryogen Relic, take 4, opponent's at 1, and that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Double Hard Claw, can deal a lot of damage early. Even have Village to give haste. Watery Grave tapped, so might be the Reanimator deck. So then we do need to be off to a quick start, because once they slime down Cavero, it can be game over. Town Greeter, mills a Bringer already, so that's what they need. Yeah, I'll just play another Hard Claw. Nemesis to prevent life gains, also relevant. Take 2 of Breeding Pool for Awaken, and that's fine. So their opponent gets to mill 3, and if they get lucky, they could set up a lethal Cavero. So far, double Bringer, double Town Greeter. And yep, they have it on 4. So I'll get a Hard Claw back at least. But that's a lot of demons. And there's a Vein Ripper as well. Alright, so what are my options? Hard Claw can put him to 8. I'm not that on board to a single attack. Although next turn they can get something back out of the graveyard. Could be another Cavero, make a Vein Ripper to gain life. No way for me to deal damage to my own Screaming Nemesis, unfortunately, but if I attack, it's likely to go unblocked, or if they chump, I can prevent them from gaining life. So that's probably the play. I don't think bouncing anything with Viper is necessary, even though I could bounce 1 Bringer. Yeah, I think it's just Nemesis and Jam. I guess Hardclaw doesn't have to attack necessarily. But maybe it's my last chance to get damage in before they get a Vein Ripper and punish me for losing my creatures. So our opponent's at 5. We'll see what they can come up with. Discard Vein Ripper, get Vein Ripper back with Gavero. So, yeah, this says whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 and you gain 2 life. Lightning Strike can deal 3 to the Nemesis and then prevent him from gaining life, assuming this resolves before the Vein Ripper trigger. So then it's all about who's the active player, since the triggers from the active player go on the stack first, which means the non-active player's triggers resolve first. So we would want to Lightning Strike the Nemesis in the opponent's turn to prevent the Vein Ripper from resolving first. It doesn't matter, opponent had another Bitter Triumph anyway. So needs another Lightning Strike or Burst Lightning to win the game. Scalding Viper doesn't quite do it, can bounce 2 Bringers. Still die to the remaining 4/4. Yeah, that's too bad. This Reanimator deck's definitely one of the main boogeymen in the current best of 1 format. And yeah, if they can Gavero on turn 4 with a full graveyard, they'll usually get there. So you need an exceptionally good draw with a red aggro deck to stand a chance. And we didn't quite have it this time. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a Keeper. I'll start with a Hardclaw, even though we can eventually give it haste. Don't have any amazing 2-drops, so maybe I'll just want to pump it. Can always get lucky and draw a second copy. Let's see what we're up against. Blue-red, so it could be a mirror match, could be VV Cauldron. What's realistic here? Probably just attack and pump. They could have Torture Tower, I suppose. So I could just let 1 damage happen and then pump afterwards. Possible they have the bounce spell. Yeah, still gonna go for it. So maybe they had nothing. Just an opt. Alright, so maybe missed 1 damage, but that's alright. Now 2 mana. Do we see maybe a Fear of Missing Out? Could still attack into it with a Hardclaw, as we can threaten to pump it up. It's going to be an Engineer, dies to a Burst Lightning. Scalding Viper is also decent. So got a few options. Going for Burst Lightning, attack, and pump is one way to go. Keep the Viper to maybe bounce something first, and then we can still play it afterwards. Yeah, that seems fine to me. Don't have to Burst Lightning, could just attack, see if they want to chump. Which is also reasonable. Alright, and then I'll still pump. Now I could go for Firebrands. Keep that available. Unlikely to be super relevant. So I might be better off keeping a Burst Lightning if they try and pump the Engineer. Artist's Talent is acceptable. And attack for 2. I'll take it, see if they have anything else. Second main. A Storm Chaser's Talent. So that we can maybe ping with a Firebrand. Or bounce with a Viper. So, don't feel terrible about Burst Lightning on Engineer, but we don't have to use it. I think I just keep it in hand since we might end up kicking it. And then for now, bounce a token, attack, play Viper seems fine. So now we punish the opponent for casting any cheap spells. Have Sanctuary as a backup creature. Can kick a Burst Lightning for 4 damage. If we draw Ojer, I can immediately deal 4 with Hardclaw. Viper would also deal 4 damage, and Firebrand would deal 4 damage. So that would be an awesome top deck. Opponent passes. So our opponent could exhaust the Engineer to make a 4/4 Dragon. Can still take it out with a kicked Burst Lightning. So I'll go ahead and attack. Possible we don't want to trade Viper for Engineer. And I just get in with a Hardclaw. Might actually want to let them double block the Hardclaw and then Burst Lightning. Because if they single block with a Dragon, pumping Hardclaw is enough to take it out. So their opponent exhausts. Will they double block? They do. Could have also gone for Pump Hardclaw and then just Burst Lightning the Engineer for 2 damage. I guess that made more sense. So we end up with a slightly bigger Hardclaw. And then I would have still had the mana to deploy the Firebrand. Either way, opponent goes for Eidetic Memory. So they're pretty much dead on board to the Sanctuary if they tap out. And yeah, we'll go for it. Can attack, and thanks to the Vigilant land, we can still pump Hardclaw. And there we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand's fine, nothing exciting, but seems keepable enough. Facing turn 1 plains. Currently looking at a Needlehead. Which may get countered. That resolves. So now we have to watch out for a Star Cage exiling my board. And they may cast it right now. Nope, it's going to be a Synthesizer first. Alright, big draw step coming up. Can we draw land? We can. And I think I'm down to damage the Nemesis with Firebrands, because the artifact deck has a few life gain effects that we can shut down this way. Hit you for 5. Viper can also now maybe bounce a token from Synthesizer. Snare answers Nemesis, makes a token. But we can keep up the pressure. Think Hard Claw, hit for 2. And then we're close to burning them out with what we have in hand. They did have a Star Cage after all. Possible they had it and just didn't have a great window to cast it yet. So I have essentially 6 points of burn in hand. So if we can just get 1 damage of Scalding Viper, that's all we need. I think I go Hard Claw over Firebrand, even though Firebrand can maybe chump. Don't expect to take lethal unless our opponent goes for artifact that can sacrifice, search up Fire Crystal to give haste, which would trigger Synthesizer a bunch. Although they would also have to sacrifice a 3-drop, which would give us a blocker back. So then I think we would still be safe. And I may need the extra damage from Hard Claw. If they maybe united Battlefront into an answer for Viper, which would not trigger it. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Finds bricks and relic, so no life. Just a plains and a card. So it could have been a lot worse. So attacking with Hard Claw would put them to 6. Ojer would be awesome if we had land 4, since then we would immediately deal 4 with Hard Claw. And Viper would deal 4 as well. Now I guess we just play Firebrand. Do I even bother attacking with Hard Claw? Putting them to 6 means I have a lethal with Lightning Strike, Burst Lightning and Firebrand, so I guess I should attack for 1 with Hard Claw. Even though we give up on the Ojer synergy. The only concern would be a counterspell here, messing us up. I guess I could have attacked with both, and then if they had nothing, we have lethal right now. If they had Saw Blades, they would have taken 1 down to 5, so I guess I should have just attacked all out here anyways. Can't think of much that would have punished us. Should still be fine. But yeah, could have maybe closed out the game this turn already. I guess a counter to attacking all out is if they do have a counter spell, then I would not have had lethal. And then I would have lost the Viper, which could be useful. Opponent's gonna sack the relic. Another snare. Goes for Viper. Maybe should have cast a strike to see if they counter, so I get to deal 1 more damage on the way out. But yeah, opponent's just gonna tap out. So I can jump with Firebrand and then burn them out. I guess I don't have to jump with Firebrand, can maybe leave myself with the satisfaction of burning them out with Ojer. So I can just take 9 here. Alright, can we draw an untapped land? If they somehow have a 1-mana bounce spell, I guess they could still punish me for that play by bouncing the Firebrand in response. Alright, fine. I guess we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. There we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and we've got a keeper. Hopefully we get to see Ojer in action. With Hard Claw, we get to deal 4 damage with a trigger. Scalding Viper would deal 4. Put on black-white. So we could just pump Hard Claw, keep Viper as interaction, or we can just cast a Viper now, which is maybe still preferable. So this Esper can expect some removal. For now, I'm happy to pump Hard Claw. So possible they're sitting on a counter spell instead. Consult, trigger Viper. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get to resolve Ojer this game, sadly. Unless they tap out for a removal spell. Well, Razorkin also triggers with Ojer. So I guess I can cast it and then still pump Hard Claw afterwards. Might be overextending into a Day of Judgment. Yeah, I guess I'm still fine if they Day of Judgment and we get to resolve Ojer. So for now, we can attack. Opponent's at 6. This would put them to 5. So I imagine we see planes into Day of Judgment here. Yep. Yep. Sanctuary's good. So I get to resolve Ojer, but we lost all our damage-dealing effects. Now Lightning Strike would also deal 4 damage. But we'll see if they can answer Ojer some other way. Otherwise, Sanctuary gets in for 3 and can still cast Lightning Strike for lethal. Another Day of Judgments. Alright, so they only have 1 mana up. Could even try and close it out with a Needlehead, but I don't think they'll have a Spell Pierce. So Lightning Strike can do it. Awesome. Alright, so we get to see this blue-red burn deck in action, and yeah, the blue splash for Viper gives the deck a little bit more versatility than it had before, being able to bounce larger creatures or tokens, or some other non-creature permanents that can be annoying, can give us a little bit more interaction. And then I did like the inclusion of Ojer, even though we didn't get to see it in action as much as I would have liked. It is still a 4-drop, which is pretty pricey for today's standard, but it can have a pretty immediate impact if we have some creatures in play already that can immediately deal 4 damage. So I've been pretty happy with its inclusion, even though we didn't get to see it as much here as I would have liked. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.